The tragic death of Cal Fire. Captain Rebecca Marodi and the arrest of her estranged wife. A heartbreaking story has unfolded in Ramona, California, where the death of Cal Fire Captain Rebecca "Becky" Marodi has left a community devastated. On February 17, 2025, Becky was fatally stabbed at her home. What makes this case even more chilling is that her accused killer, Yolanda Olejniczak Marodi, was her estranged wife. After a month-long search, Yolanda was apprehended in Mexicali, Mexico, and is now facing charges of murder. As the investigation unfolded, authorities pieced together a sequence of events that painted a chilling picture of betrayal and violence. The details surrounding Becky's death were recorded by the home's security system. The video footage captured a horrifying moment when Becky was heard pleading for her life, crying out to Yolanda, "Please, don't want to die." The evidence was damning, showing Yolanda chasing her wife, stabbing her, and then leaving her to die. The arrest of Yolanda in Mexico was the result of coordinated efforts between law enforcement agencies in both Mexico and the United States. U.S. authorities had been tracking Yolanda's movements after the murder, and it was determined that she crossed into Mexico shortly after the killing. The investigation was expedited after a warrant was issued for her arrest, and within weeks, she was located and detained by Mexican authorities. Yolanda's behavior after the murder raised further concerns. 3 days after the killing, investigators found a text message from Yolanda that read, "Becky came home and told me she was leaving me. She met someone else. All the messages were lies. We had a big fight and I hurt her. I'm sorry." This message suggested a deep emotional conflict between the couple, but it also revealed Yolanda's own guilt and responsibility for the murder. What makes this case even more disturbing is Yolanda's violent history. In 2000, she was convicted of voluntary manslaughter for the death of her first husband, James Olejniczak. She served time in prison for the crime, only to later repeat this violent pattern with Becky. This history raises crucial questions about whether Yolanda's violent tendencies were ignored or overlooked in the past. For many, the idea that someone could repeat such a horrific act after already serving time for a similar crime is both baffling and terrifying. It highlights the importance of monitoring individuals with a violent criminal history more closely, especially in situations involving intimate partner violence. The news of Becky Marodi's death has deeply shaken the local community, where she was widely regarded as a dedicated and compassionate individual. As a captain with Cal Fire, Becky was known for her bravery in battling fires and saving lives. Her colleagues at Cal Fire have expressed their heartbreak over her loss, stating that Becky was a beloved member of their department and her death has left an irreplaceable void. Neighbors who knew Becky described her as a kind and genuine person, someone who was always ready to lend a hand. One neighbor, Jerry Cannon, recalled how Becky had been the epitome of kindness. These testimonies paint a picture of a woman who dedicated her life to serving others, only to have it tragically cut short by someone she loved. This case sheds light on the darker side of domestic violence. While Becky's death is tragic, it also serves as a reminder of the potential dangers of unaddressed emotional and psychological issues within relationships. Yolanda's actions were driven by an overwhelming sense of betrayal, but they also reflect a larger issue of how unresolved conflict can escalate into violent acts. It's essential to remember that domestic violence can happen in any relationship, regardless of the outward appearance. Even those who seem to have a perfect life on the outside can be struggling with issues behind closed doors. In this case, the security footage not only recorded the tragic end of Becky's life, but also highlighted the immense emotional turmoil that led to her death. As the legal process moves forward, Yolanda faces serious charges, including murder. The evidence against her is substantial, and it's likely that she will face a lengthy trial. It remains to be seen how the courts will handle this case, given Yolanda's violent past and the extreme nature of the crime. One of the key questions moving forward is whether the court will take into account Yolanda's history of violence when determining her sentence. Given that she has already served time for a similar crime, the severity of her actions in this case could lead to even harsher penalties. From a psychological perspective, Yolanda's violent behavior could be indicative of unresolved trauma and deep emotional issues. Her history of violence, coupled with her extreme reaction to perceived betrayal, points to a potentially toxic mix of jealousy, control, and emotional instability. Experts often argue that in cases of domestic violence, both the victim and the perpetrator may have underlying psychological scars. While it is in no way an excuse for Yolanda's actions, understanding the psychological motivations behind such behavior can provide insights into preventing similar incidents in the future. The death of Becky Marodi is a tragic event that has left a community in mourning. Her death also serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unresolved conflict in relationships and the importance of seeking help before situations escalate into violence. For those affected by domestic violence, it's crucial to recognize the signs early and seek support from professionals or trusted individuals. As this case unfolds, we will likely see more details emerge about Yolanda's motives and her past. But for now, the community can only remember the life of a brave and selfless woman who gave everything to her career and to those around her. The justice system will now have to determine the appropriate consequences for the person responsible for her untimely death.